This week's task is to explain the workings of my synthesizer. They start off with a simple waveform created by the voltage controlled oscillator, which can play a waveform at different pitches for each key of the keyboard, and then they apply filters to it and they modulate the amplitude as well. I'm starting out with nice simple sound. It's a simple waveform. But what's this D, this DCO? I thought it was meant to be a VCO. Yeah, the Juno 1 was one of the first analogue synths which actually used digital oscillators instead of voltage controlled oscillators. If your voltage in your mains is unstable, then your pitch is going to be drifting out. So these digital oscillators, you can just get that exactly right, and you can be sure that's not going to drift out. The Juno 1 can create pulse waves, sawtooth waves, and what it calls subwaves, sub for subterranean. They're an octave or two lower than the other waves. It can also produce a noise wave, which is white noise. What it doesn't create is a sine wave. A sine wave is sound energy on a single frequency. But you can do this backwards. If I use the brilliance control and sweep this filter, I'll talk about filters in a bit, down, so I lose some of these upper frequencies you can see here, then the wave will turn into something more sine wave flavoured. What I'm sweeping here is called a low pass filter. It's only letting the low frequency through. Anything above the frequency I set is discarded. The Juno 1 can mix up these waves, so you can generate several waveforms at the same time to create some quite interesting mixtures of squares and saws and such like. What it also has is pulse width modulation. What I'm playing now is a pulse wave, so-called, and as I change the rates, you might be able to see there on the screen that the width of the peaks and troughs is altering through time. Juno 1 also has a chorus which has a similar effect, but not quite the same. It's certainly not doing the same thing as the waveform. There's a high pass filter. It only lets the high frequencies through. There's a low frequency oscillator section. Each of those sections has a control which sets how much effect the oscillator will have on it. Here I'm going to affect the digital controlled oscillator. You should be able to see that width changing as the pitch changes. The filter is the fun bit in the synthesizer. It's a low pass filter and lets through more and more high frequencies the higher the value is. With the resonance up, it doesn't just allow more through, but it boosts them. You might be noticing a stepping effect here. That's because this synthesizer has a digital controller. If I had proper sliders, which would be analogue potentiometers, I wouldn't be getting that stepping effect. That is one of the downfalls of this digital control in this synth. One of the good things about it is you can store all the patches in electronic memory. The last section is the voltage controlled amplitude. As well as being able to control this with a low frequency oscillator, I've got what's known as an envelope, which is a set of points at which I can set the level of sound through time, and I can set how long it takes to get from one level to another. This is a sound with a slight sustain to it, a bit like a kind of bell might have a slight sustain, or a drum. If I set the T1 time 1, it takes longer for the sound to start and get to its original volume. If I shorten time 1, it's more kind of percussive and starts straight away. The Juno 1 has 3 levels and 4 times. So you set time 1 to get to level 1, then time 2 to get to level 2, then time 3 to get to level 3, and time 4 is what happens when you take your finger off the key. That's like the sustain or the ring time. I hope that little tour of the Juno 1 has been useful. Even something as simple as Juno 1, there's lots of sound you can get if you know what you're doing. Whatever synth you use, I hope you enjoy making your own sounds and not sticking with all the preset ones that everyone else is using. Happy playing, happy synthesizing, take care.